Welcome to Facebook Live, Gorton's first open mic night storytelling. I'm Ann Wildman. I'm the director of events at Gorton, and we've got quite a show for you tonight. This is a super popular event. We have a huge subscription to this, and so bear with us. It's our first time ever doing this. My son, Jack Wildman, is helping with tech, so we have him to thank. And we have Gorton's very own Ann Perky, who has curated storytelling for us in the past. She is going to host this show. So I welcome you all, and I want to put a quick disclaimer out there. This should be a PG event, but there's a chance it could be PG-13, so just a little disclaimer and warning for any families out there. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ann Perky.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Virtual Stand and Deliver. So excited you're here. This is our second Stand and Deliver. The first one was in February, and tonight we have seven tellers and two featured tellers. And we're really excited about the event. And I'm going to tell a little pandemic ditty to start, my own pandemic story. So, you know, in the pandemic, in our quarantine, my first and foremost priority is to keep my family healthy. So I've loaded up on vitamins. We're constantly taking vitamin C. We're constantly taking elderberry. We're constantly taking olive leaf. And I'm filling everyone up with organic fruits and vegetables, okay? So my daughter will only eat organic celery. And I look in the refrigerator one night and there's no organic celery. So I have to make a trip to Sunset. So I don my hazmat, my gloves, my mask, I get in the car, I drive to Sunset, I go into the parking lot and I case the joint. I'm looking who's in the store, who's coming out, when it's safe. I see a man come out with like 10 cases of beer. I see a woman come out with like 50 rolls of toilet paper, and then I see that the store is empty. So I go in stealthily. I know where the celery is. I zoom to the produce area. I grab the stalk of celery, and I come out of the store, and I'm whipping around the corner when I crash into a cart, and I instinctively pull my bunch of celery out like a weapon. Stand back, I yell. And I start backing away, and I look at the woman, and it's my vet, who's this pleasantly plump woman, Dr. Levine, hunched over a mound of Charmin. And she looks at me and she says, "Hi, Ann." I back away more, 6 feet, 8 feet. "Hi, Dr. Levine."
Is this where it'll start?
And then I turn around and I zip to check out. I pay for my purchase, my bunch of celery. I get in the car and my mind starts going. Gosh darn it all. Dr. Levine is a healthcare worker. She's a vet. She treats animals. She treats livestock. She treats gerbils. I get in the car and my mind starts going. Oh, I've got corona. And the whole thing is over. And my mind is just going and going about our vet. So I get home. I pull into the car, into the garage. I go into the house. I take off my hazmat gear. I whip out the bunch of celery. I plop it down on the kitchen table. And I say, "Guys, I risked my life for this. Thank you." Okay. Our first teller is Jimmy Corain, our first featured teller. Jimmy has been doing improv for 30 years and is well known for his podcast, Improv Nerd. I saw his one-man show, World's Greatest Dad, last year, and it was amazing. Please help me welcome Jimmy Corain.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you very much. It's very thank you. I see you guys clapping, and it's very odd not to have audience response, but I'm gonna try my best. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm not that high maintenance of a person. I just need a little. I just need a little contact, social contact, daily, and it doesn't. And it's different then, having contact with my wife and my daughter, who's 3.5 years old. And I can do it by I used to be able to just do it by walking out the door. I could just go to Walgreens and talk to the cashier for a couple minutes, or the mailman, and ask him about how the flooring was. But as you know, none of us can leave our house, so that's not possible. So what I'm doing now to take care of myself is after dinner, I go on a walk, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And I make sure it's dark out because I live in a part of Evanston that's very dense. There's a lot of apartment buildings and there's townhouses, and during the day there's a lot of people out. So I want to make sure there's not a lot of people because of the whole social distancing. So I have a green Patagonia jacket. It's a puffy jacket, and I put the hood on, and then I put black gloves on, and then I have this. I've made a mask out of one of Betsy's baby blankets, and it's more like it looks more like it's not really a mask. It looks more like I'm a bandit, like I'm going to rob a stagecoach or something, or I'm a pirate. So I feel kind of cool in it, and so I go out for my walk. And I'm great with the social distancing. At the 6 feet, I'm so good. I'm going to work up to 8. And the part that I find to be really awkward for me is when I see people coming down the street. I usually take the initiative and I cross the street because to me this is like I feel it's like a confrontation, and I avoid confrontation. I have a fear of confrontation. So for this walk, I've been crossing the street 15 times in the last 20 minutes, and I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of being the one who always has to cross the street. Yes, I'm having a resentment about this. So I'm on a street, and I see people. There maybe is an older couple, and they're kind of hunched over, and they're about 20 feet away from me. And this street has a lot of homes. It's a historic street. It's in Evanston. So they're old homes, with big porches and pillars and wooden stairs. And I'm standing in front of a house that I'm very familiar with because my wife and I, Lauren, used to live in an apartment building 2 doors down. And our balcony would overlook the backyard. And it was owned by 2 German sisters, very handsome sisters. And they were big, heavy-set women. Never married, never had kids. But one of them had a turtle, and the other one had this big, giant rabbit. And in the summer, when it got warm, they'd come out in their nightgowns, and early in the morning, and they would let the turtle and the giant turtle and the rabbit run around the tiny backyard. So this house was sold about 5 or 6 months ago, and so somebody's working on it. Someone's doing a gut rehab, and I know this because there's a big dumpster in the back. So I'm back on the street, right? And I'm looking at this old couple, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this social distance. I'll just take the gangway through their house, through the old German people's house, because nobody's there, and I'll cut through the alley, past the dumpster, and on my way home. So before I do it, because I don't want to get in any trouble, I look in the windows, and it's completely dark. It's obvious nobody's there. So in my green jacket with the hood and the bayonet mask, I walk slowly through the gangway. I go through the door, I close the door, and all of a sudden I hear somebody, hey, Green. Now I pretend like I don't hear it, and he comes again, hey, Green. And I turn around, and there's this guy. He's tall, he's young, he's got a mustache, and he's holding a flashlight, and he's coming towards me. And I say, hey, 6 feet. And he keeps coming towards me. I go, hey, 6 feet. And the guy says, hey, what were you doing back there? That's private property. And I'm like, look, I thought this house was under construction. I was trying to avoid these people. I'm doing good social distancing. He says, look, I was robbed last week. And now I'm feeling awful. I'm feeling terrible. Like, we have enough to worry about, right, with the coronavirus and being at home. And now this guy's worried about me robbing his house twice in 1 week. So I say, man, I would feel the same way. He goes, I should call the police. And now I'm like, fuck, shit. So I need to build trust immediately. So I say to him, look, I lived in this apartment building here with my wife, and we knew the 2 women who owned the place. And he just stares at me for a second. And his heart stops beating. It's hard. And he gets calm. says to me, yeah, one of those women died and I bought the house. And I said, well, you probably have a lot of work to do. He says, yeah, I'm doing it myself. And then he says something to me that I didn't expect. He says, hey, I'm sorry, man, for acting the way I just did. Now I've gotten a lot of, I've been in a lot of situations where I felt people owed me an apology, but this wasn't one of them because I was completely in the wrong. And sure, I was shaken, and I was trying to avoid confrontation, and I walked right into it. But the truth of the matter is, I really enjoyed that social interaction. I missed that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Okay, our next teller is Janine Bergdorf.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Anne. At Christmas, during the darkest days and longest nights of the year, we shine lights inside and out. We give each other gifts, even to people we don't like the rest of the year. In the waning sunlight of December, our hearts are open to see the abundance of everything everywhere. My mother loved Christmas. She found joy in decorating the house with stuffed Santas and ceramic elves, forgetting about what had happened the rest of the year as she sang carols and hung ornaments. My mother died right before Thanksgiving in 2008, and it took me about 7 years before I found joy in Christmas again. December still has an outline of sadness around it. Every Christmas day, I go to her grave and catch her up on the events of the past year. My mother's spot is near the top of a slowly sloping hill that looks down at pine trees and blue jays. I watch families of deer graze at the bottom of the hill. It is the quietest place in Cincinnati. This past Christmas, I stopped at a gas station to get something hot to hold, even though it was 66 degrees. I'd just come from the cemetery, from giving my mother the recap of my very busy 2019. There was a long line inside the gas station carryout. I turned and stared out the glass doors to distract myself. An old man walked through the door with a little girl, maybe 6 or 7. She didn't have a jacket on. They had walked up to the gas station, not driven like the rest of us. I held my coffee, felt my fingers warm, turned to see if the line was progressing toward the cashier. As soon as they stepped inside, I heard the man yelling behind me. He had a thick Eastern Ohio accent, or maybe it was a speech impediment, that made it hard to understand what he was yelling. I kept my gaze on my coffee cup. I didn't want to look at him and draw attention to myself. The girl was clear in her plea. She wanted a candy bar. I felt a tight heat at the back of my throat. It took most of my concentration to keep from erupting into tears. There were so many candy bars. I knew why he wasn't letting her have one, though he never explained it to her. I thought about paying for their items as an act of Christmas charity. People posted those pay it forward clips on YouTube. Sometimes the stories ended up in the local news reports. When it came my turn to pay, I looked at the cashier, who smiled, revealing only gums, saying Merry Christmas. I thought better of it. No one wanted my charity. No one wanted to see that I had a credit card that could pay for all the candy bars the girl could eat on Christmas Day and the day after. I felt the guilt of having, but also the shame of not sharing. The girl continued pleading as I put my coffee on the counter. She sounded confused about why she couldn't have more. She knew she deserved more for Christmas. Even though I couldn't make out what the man said, I was scared by his sharpness, imagined him yanking her by the collar away from the candy in the aisle next to us. Their conversation hadn't offered any clues about their relationship, how this man, maybe my age, but aged by life circumstance and alcohol, and this girl had come to be. Someone somewhere had cared for her this morning, put her hair in braids, given her that first candy bar. I wanted to scoop them both up in my car and take them to wherever they had walked from, to deliver them back to the sparkly tree with dozens of shiny packages underneath it. I paid for my coffee, but kept my eyes down as I walked to the door. Once back in my car, I watched them talk to the cashier with no teeth, pay, and turn toward the door hand in hand. Then they turned onto the sidewalk in the direction I wasn't going, into the low December sun. I can't stop thinking about this girl, who I only got a glimpse of. I couldn't tell if she had a mother, but I hope she did. A grandmother, an aunt, an older sister. Someone who could show her the softness she deserved, who could give her something to find joy in on Christmas Day. I wouldn't love Christmas as much as I do without my mother showing me how to find light, even in the darkest years. 2019 was a dark year. I finally accepted, after almost 15 years, that I would never be a mother. Not a biological one, anyhow. It was a long road to love the me I am, instead of twisting and churning my body and my life into what it wasn't supposed to be. Motherhood wasn't in the cards for me. Accepting myself as motherless and childless has been a parallel road. I'm still on it. I want more. I deserve more. I continue to learn who I am, not who I thought I was going to be. Without a child to devote all my motherly attention to, I give it away to everyone. I'm reckless with it, doting on my students and my friends' children, offering tea and cold medicine to my sick coworkers. There's no staunching the flood of mother instinct. It flows whether there's an object to receive it or not. For my car in the gas station, I held both the girl and the man in my imaginary giant enough to wrap around them both arms. I couldn't deliver them to the tinseled Christmas tree overflowing with presents, but I could see myself in them without pity or shame. The three of us strangers, none of us getting what we wanted, and all of us deserving more than what we got. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Our next teller is Drew Davis.
Thank you so much. The answer is always yes. Right after I graduated from college, one of the first jobs I had was serving as the maitre d' of a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was called Craigie on Main. And it turns out that being a maitre d' is a lot more like being a crossword puzzle writer or a Rubik's Cube solver. The restaurant floor is my game board, and I have hundreds of different pieces, all of which that interact with one another. Some guests like to eat very quickly, some very slowly. Some servers like to keep the deal moving along. Some like to make it move a little more leisurely, and trying to understand how all these pieces interact is my game every day. So in the afternoons while the restaurant was getting ready for service, I would sit at a table with all of my names and reservations and notes, trying to understand how to make everything perfect, knowing full well that by about 6:15, it would all have gone awry. One afternoon, I was working on the floor plan, and a man burst into the restaurant, and the host stand was right at the front door. So he found me immediately, and he was disheveled. And he looked at me and said, hey man, I need some change. Do you have any change? I've lived in Boston, Chicago, and New York over the last 15 years, and for better or worse, I've walked by a lot of people who've said, can you spare a dime, a dollar, some change? And out of either pity or pride or some weird combination of the two, I instinctively just say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And so I look at this man who's standing in front of me, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, man, I can't help you. At that moment, Tom, the bar manager for the restaurant, walks behind us. The guy turns as if he hasn't heard me and flags Tom down and says, I'm dying for some change. Can you break a dollar? And Tom doesn't miss a beat. He's like, yes. and he goes behind the bar. He goes into the till. He gets $1, or he gets 4 quarters rather, gives it to the man, offers him a little bottle of Coke for the road, which he gladly accepts. And on the way out, this man turns to me and with stunning articulation says, "And you have a great day, jerk." The shame I felt was so white hot, I thought I might turn the floorboards beneath my feet into embers and fall into the center of the earth. I'm not a bad person. I don't think I am. Tom comes over, and the first thing he does is laugh for a good 30 seconds, a nice hearty laugh. And when he finally composes himself, he says, "Drew, you're not a bad person. You answered the wrong question. You answered literally, can you make change, which I assume you can." That's not what he was asking. He was saying, can you help me? And the answer is always yes. 6 months later, it was a Sunday night, and the chef had a very important friend coming in for a birthday. The chef asked that the guest of honor had 2 different tables to choose from when he came in, so we had to keep them clear for the entire evening. And I knew this going in. I had it in my floor plan. I was ready to go. The guest of honor would arrive at 7 p.m. At 6:30, a party of 5 came. It was a family of 4 and a grandmother, and they were celebrating the grandmother's 80th birthday. When they arrived, the table wasn't quite ready. I sent them into the bar. I let Tom know so that he could take care of them while they waited. And I looked at the table that I had specifically reserved for them in the plan, and then I saw a fresh round of drinks hit the table at least half an hour before they're going anywhere. So I go back to my floor plan. I start looking at all the different tables and all the different reservations, and I try to move things, and I find one solution involving one of the tables I promised the chef I absolutely will not give up. And almost as if he knew what I was thinking, I looked up, we locked eyes, and with no words, he communicated, "Do not put that party there, or this will be the last day you work here." So I looked down and I said nothing. 10 minutes went by, 15 minutes went by, 20 minutes went by, and the family, they hadn't ordered drinks, and I could see them shuffling and moving back and forth. They just wanted to sit down. And finally, the man from the party, who I assume was their patriarch, and her son came to the host stand and said, "Hey man, I know you're just trying to do your job. And we're so excited to be here. We've heard such great things about this restaurant. My grandmother's not used to standing this long. She's tired, and we just want to sit. Can you help me?" And I looked at him, I looked at the chef, and I looked back at him. And I said, yes. The answer is always yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Our next teller is Megan Gwaltney. I had the pleasure of hearing Megan at Louder Than a Mom in Chicago, and I believe she's getting a story ready for the Moth Grand Slam. So take it away, Megan.
Thank you, Anne. I've been thinking about that meme with the side-by-side pictures. The first one says what I thought the apocalypse would look like, and it's Laura Croft kicking butt. The second, what it actually looks like, is a woman on her couch in pajamas. In my personal version of this, what I thought it would look like is me in the fetal position weeping profusely, except for the daily Zoom global sing-alongs of Kumbaya. What it actually looks like is me scrolling social media, feeling random rage, every post lodging like a sliver beneath my suddenly thin skin, ready to snap on the parade of fresh-baked gluten I can't eat, or memes that scream, "The world needs your art now more than ever." I have OCD. It's not the Hollywood kind. Even in a global pandemic, I wash my hands frequently, but not obsessively. My apartment's not organized or spotless or even clean pre-quarantine. My OCD is mostly invisible. It's a different kind of perfectionism aimed inward. But years ago, before medication, I'd spend hours every night praying for loved ones. I'd visualize building a wall around each of them, brick by brick. When I reached the last, I'd be terrified I'd forgotten someone. So I'd begin again and again and again, as long as it took to exhaust myself of that fear. So it was the pretty safe assumption that during a global pandemic that I can't protect my family from, fetal position weeping would definitely be my thing. I didn't expect to be so angry. After a lifetime inside this mind, I'm well versed in calming tactics, and I was ready to fend off panic. But anger and depression sucker punched me. Anxiety's been my lifelong companion, and depression crashed the party later, but I've still listened to its low hum for a long time now. Anxiety is loud, roaring in my ears, a shrill panic sounding the alarm. Depression's a whisper. So insidious, I barely notice it, which is dangerous because when panic sirens are blaring, I know to take cover, to be gentle with myself, to do whatever I need to do to weather the storm. But for some reason with depression, it's like I'm just learning I have this genetic tendency every single time it happens. Maybe because I still function, I still laugh, I still make other people laugh, I still look normal, whatever that means. Anxiety registers in my body in an undeniable way, one I work hard to disguise. Depression just slows me, makes every action feel as though I'm pushing through mud. So it's almost like I don't believe it's real. It's not always what you see in movies, can't get out of bed, constant crying, especially once you're already on antidepressants. Sometimes when nothing feels worth the effort, when I just don't care about outcomes, I convince myself that I'm lazy. Even though I have this diagnosis and take medication, I doubt the severity of what's happening. I push and punish myself for lack of focus until I listen closely to the hissing, the thoughts that tell me I'm not part of anything, I'll never belong, my brain is broken. There's an easy way out. Then I recognize this illness, quiet, invisible, easy to hide or talk myself out of, but an illness just the same. Sometimes it looks like anger at people living lives I can't manage, or myself for not accomplishing more. Sometimes it feels like always being on the outside of things. People say, I'm here if you need me, but when you feel like a venomous, pathetic outsider, you don't want to reach out. You feel broken and toxic and alone. You're ashamed of feeling anything less than grateful when you and your family are healthy and people are dying. You feel like a self-centered brat. And sometimes you think, what is there to say? This is just how my brain works and no one can change it. So many of us are alone inside our heads in an empty apartment or house right now. No voices to remind us that the hum is not the truth. I don't want anyone to worry about me. I know how to be alone. I'm fine. But what I do want is for people to recognize that just because your friends don't reach out doesn't mean they don't need you right now. I went for a walk the other day, seeking the wisdom of the sidewalk chalk prophets, trying to name the feeling sitting heavy in my chest. It was sharper, closer than morning. A world that will never be the same. It felt like rage, like a logical anger at anything that crossed my path. But I couldn't place it. I asked myself what I had to be angry about. I'm healthy, I'm loved, I'm safe. Then a little boy whizzed past me on a Razor scooter, his mom jogging behind, and I got it. I wrote an essay recently about realizing that I'll never have children of my own. Writing has always been how I process things, my personal attempt at alchemy, changing pain into something I'm proud of. I submitted the essay and told myself, I did it, I'm all better. But anyone who's ever lived through grief knows that's not how it works. Before we lost my nephews, I believed grief was a soft, tragically beautiful thing. After those losses, I seemed to have 3 speeds: zombie, rage, and tears. I spent a lot of time idling in rage, and I realized that grief can be hard and ugly. We're all grieving at this moment. Every single one of us in our own way, coming to terms with a world that's changed. But there are layers in this loss. Your friends who are alone, even those who aren't, may be grieving things they don't speak of as they watch their social media feed fill with family and children and couples quarantining together. There's a lot of time in silence right now to sit with the choices we've made. Even if you stand by those choices, choosing one thing by nature means letting another go. A loss we sometimes don't recognize for years. A lot of people are recognizing their losses right now. And if you ask them, how are you? They'll say, meh, or hanging in there. Some grief doesn't breathe inside our conscious thought. It lives beneath the surface in that low hum, felt but unnamed. None of us have lived through this before. So the reality of how it fits in our body is different than the hypothetical in our heads. Maybe the biggest gift we can give each other is 3 words. Are you okay? Be prepared to listen. The real answer might be messy. Don't worry about advice or helping. Just holding space for someone's unfiltered truth and saying, I see you, I got you. That's the gift, especially right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much. Okay, our next teller is a good friend of mine, 2-time Moth Grand Slam champion and bon vivant in Wilmette, Maria Morris.
Okay, let me make sure I have this right. This is day 76, week 76, day 589 of the confinement. Am I correct? Am I doing my math right? I have to admit, I wasn't a coronavirus denier so much as a coronavirus minimizer. I was a person saying, come on. I mean, I had H1N1 in 2009. I was part of a pandemic, thank you. I weathered the storm for all of us. So I wasn't that concerned until I saw this article pop up on my Twitter, Facebook feed from an Australian newspaper. It was on March 2nd. It said, stores emptied of toilet paper amid coronavirus fears. 3 shoppers injured. I was like, what the hell is the matter with those people? Like when Florida has a hurricane, they keep showing a B-roll of the empty shelves of where the water should be. So like, folks need to lighten up here. And so I'm telling my husband, Andy, can you believe this? There's no toilet paper in all of Australia. They have 2 cases of this virus, and there's no toilet paper in the entire continent. They don't know when they're going to get any. I was just sure everybody was reacting. And so while I'm telling him this, Andy is breaking into a kind of a trot towards the garage. And he's going to check out our strategic reserve of Kirkland toilet paper. And he goes, we're down to 38 rolls. I was like, oh boy, I didn't know I was living with one of them. And so less than an hour later after that happened, he and I are in Costco. We're in the store, but we're snaking in a line back to that toilet paper, the big toilet paper section in the far back of the store, because their toilet paper is their loss leader. They put it back there, so you have to pass everything to get it, because they know people are always going for the toilet paper. So we're in a line of 60, 70, 100 people, our neighbors, our fellow Americans, our people who share this Freudian panic about how we're going to keep ourselves clean in this situation. And we're moving along somewhat in good cheer, and then we turn the corner, we spot the toilet paper, and those bundles of 54 just flying into people's carts 4 at a time. And maybe 5 nut jobs in front of us, that guy got the last 4 bundles. We were toilet paperless. So out of spite, I grabbed a box of 250 baby wipes and said, let's get out of here. Meantime, the guy who worked there said, don't worry, folks, we'll have more on Tuesday. And I just want to ask all of you rhetorically, have you ever noticed that when you are looking for an item you don't have it at a store, they always say it's going to be Tuesday? I'm like, no, it's not going to be Tuesday. See, we'll come back. So we're back Tuesday. There's no toilet paper. Then they have no idea when there's going to be any toilet paper. Turns out there's a lot we need to learn about how toilet paper makes it from the factory to the caverns of Costco. A lot none of us know. That was 44 days ago. And guess what? My household of 7 adults, this is like the real world, 7 adults picked to live in a house. We're down to 10 rolls of toilet paper. What am I going to do? Are we going to play bingo? Are we going to make fun of it? What are we going to do? We're going to switch to the 250 pack of baby wipes, not to just in future. My husband, Andy, the one who knew to panic, he has been the only person successful in bringing toilet paper into this house since March 2nd. But he comes home with like the 4-pack of Scott tissue that nobody buys, right? So, yes, I am with 6 other adults. It's my husband. It's our 2 kids, 18, or 2 of our 3 kids who are 18 and 21. My mom and my in-laws. So I know that people call persons like me part of the sandwich generation. I am feeling like a panini right now. I'm squished. I'm taking care of these young adults, and I'm taking care of these older people. I mean, they're relatively able to take care of themselves, but if I can do it, why not wait for me to do it, right? Anyway, the other night, I'm saying to my kids, how's it going with the online learning? And any of you that are parents out there, there's nothing kids like more than being asked how it's going learning online. Are you logged in? Are you guys on Zoom or Edmodo? Are you using Blackboard? Which platform has the best functionality? Like, oh my God, please shut up. Just shut up. Please stop talking. I'm just trying to help. So I'm downstairs doing what I'm doing every day, which is binge watching MSNBC coronavirus coverage, wall to wall. And my daughter, who's in college, comes down and says, can you help me study for this biology exam? And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet that she wants my help finally. I said, yes, but give me a second because there's a story coming up on the news that I have to see. And she's like, oh. So she sits down, and then the anchor on MSNBC, whoever it was, probably like my best friend Chris Hayes, or I don't think it was my other friend Rachel Maddow. I don't remember which one it was. It's like, coming up, we'll speak to reporter Frank Dingeldorfer, who's just written a fascinating deep dive into the supply chain of household versus commercial toilet paper. I'm like, okay, Hannah, I can help you right after this story. And she's like, are you kidding me? I'm about to fail biology, and I'm waiting for you to watch a story about toilet paper. I said, it's not about toilet paper. It's about the supply chain. And that is something that we're all going to have to know a lot about really soon. All right, young lady. She scoffed at me and she went back up to her room. But what I learned is, and I know you'll find this fascinating, and you can, DM me if you want the link to the story that the guy wrote. But your Charmins, your Quilted Northerns, your Kirklands, your household tissue, that comes from one set of factories or providers, whatever. And then the big monster roll that you see at school, that single ply, nasty, scratchy stuff, that comes from a different set of suppliers. And the two never talk to each other. They don't even have conferences. There's toilet paper conferences, but they meet separately. All right. And there's no plan to figure out how to get the big nasty rolls to the households. So this crisis that we're in is indeed a crisis of public health, but secondarily, it's a crisis of 2- and 3-ply cushioned toilet paper. So isn't it fascinating? After I think it's really interesting. And I went up to my daughter's room and I wanted to make amends, and I knocked on her door and she said, what? I go, fine, I'm not gonna be nice. So I threw a 50-packet subpart of the baby wipe box at her bed and said, you'll thank me later. Thank you.
Maria Morris, thank you.
All
Okay.
true.
Our next teller is Michael Cobb.
In early 1970s America, mimes were cool. Really, it's true. I was in 2nd grade and I had just seen a performance that blew my 7-year-old mind. That was actually no small feat. I'd already seen an unusual number of plays and performances for a kid who just learned to read the year before. My father worked in theater. He did publicity. He spread the word about new shows to his Chicago newspaper contacts and arranged for interviews with the actors on local TV and radio. Dad's friends gave him tickets for all kinds of things, and recently he'd taken me to the Civic Opera House downtown to see the legendary French mime artist Marcel Marceau. Marceau was renowned for elevating pantomime far beyond the guy escaping from an invisible box street mime stereotype. His act told little stories and had distinct characters. I'd seen him on TV many times. Remember, it was the early 70s, and mimes were not uncommon on television. Even if you've never heard of Marcel Marceau, his Bip the Clown character may be the image in your head when you hear the word mime. The guy with the white face paint, the black and white striped shirt, and the red carnation in his floppy hat. After the performance, my father took me backstage to the dressing rooms, and I got to meet Marcel Marceau. Now, think about that for a second. I am perhaps the only man you'll ever encounter who has, in person, heard the world's most famous mime speak. I vividly recall Marcel Marceau's heavy French accent, and that he was absolutely charming. He seemed genuinely happy to meet a young fan. He did some mime with me, and he taught me a few basics like walking against the wind. Those skills are now lost to the sands of time, but I was pretty good when I was 7. Before we left, he autographed a photo to me to my friend Michael. Now, Marcel Marceau was famous enough at the time that other kids at school would have heard of him. So he had just handed me 2nd grade show and tell gold. School the next day, my classmates were reasonably impressed. I passed around the autographed photo, I described his act, and the other kids ate it up. They asked a lot of questions, and I got a smattering of applause after demonstrating the mime basics that he taught me. Gee, the other kids really like mime, thought 7-year-old me. Maybe I should sign up for the school talent show next month and do mime. I put my name on the list and started working on my act. I'd learned well from my pantomime mentor. With a nod to my own awkwardness, I decided to play a skinny guy at the gym who fails comically at lifting weights and using a jump rope. It was a thoughtful piece, as subtle as a 7-year-old can be while still packing in the physical comedy. I did a few preview performances for some of my dad's coworkers at Goodman Theater, and I got rave reviews. I was ready for the talent show. Bursting with confidence when I walked out on stage, I went through my act, and the audience loved it. I got a great response, a really great response. No other act before mine had received as many laughs or as much applause. The judges would choose the contest winner based on the best audience response, and I might actually win. It was true. People really liked mime. Time for the next act. A boy my age came on stage. The music started. A bubblegum pop hit of the day. And he began to dance. Not well, not artfully, there was no choreography. He just jumped around and he wiggled and he mugged at the audience. It was the kind of performance a kid might do in his living room to get $5 from grandma. The crowd's response seemed lukewarm. This was the last act. And then the judges would announce the winner. I had this in the bag. Then the song ended. The boy turned his back to the audience and he dropped his pants. Painted on his boxer shorts, right on the cheeks of his butt, were the words, "The end." The audience went crazy. There was laughter and applause and people jumped to their feet. It was over. I knew who the winner was going to be before they announced it. I got 2nd place. At the tender age of 7, I learned a lesson that has served me well throughout life. Do your best work, but don't be surprised if you end up losing to some ass. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael Cobb. Okay, before we have our last teller, Maria Costas, I wanted to mention that Stand and Deliver will be held again May 7th. And we'd like to hear from Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, all the tellers in the community or around the community who want to tell a story and who've never gotten a chance to. It's an opportunity for you to tell your story. We will have openings for 5 people, and the signups will be soon, May 7th at 7 p.m., virtually, of course, unless pandemic is over and we're gallivanting about. I highly doubt it. So our last teller is Maria Costas. I've seen Maria all over Chicago. She's wowed me. Please help me welcome Maria.
Thank you. Memories. Some people say we hold our memories in the back of our head, in our heart, in our soul, in our cells, our ancestors' cells. You know, I really don't care. What I know about memories is that I have a lot of them. And these last days, these last weeks, while I've been in my house cleaning drawers out, one of my memories was stimulated. You know, they can be stimulated by someone's voice or a smell, or in my case, as I opened the drawer, a tube of lipstick. I looked at this tube of lipstick and I immediately thought of my friend Marilyn. Now, I met Marilyn in 1988. I was tending bar at a private party. She was a guest. She walked right up to the bar. She handed me $20. She took a bottle of champagne out of a bottle and she said, keep this bottle on ice and don't let anyone see it. It's only for me and whoever I bring to the bar. All right, I said. So as I tended bar and I was watching all the guests, my favorite thing to do when I'm tending bar, I noticed Marilyn was watching me. At the end of the night, she came up to me and she gave me her card and she said, if you're looking for a day job, I've got a job for you in my office. Well, I hardly know what a fax machine is. I said, I'm a bartender. I can't work in an office. And she said, I've been watching you all night. I have a place for you in my office. You have good customer service and great attention to detail. Call me if you're looking for something. And she walked out. So I called her the next morning and we met for coffee. And we talked a little bit about her job. And then I went to her office and we had lunch. And before I knew it, I had a job. Well, after my first day, she asked me to go to dinner. I didn't really know if this was her trying to get to know me better or like if she was asking me on a date. It was kind of a weird vibe. But I agreed to meet her at the restaurant. So I went to the restaurant really early so that I could get comfortable. It was a Chinese restaurant. Marilyn was giving me a job in her advertising department. She sold above ground swimming pools. Anyway, I'm sitting in the Chinese restaurant and I'm looking around and I'm noticing the color red and I'm thinking about what do I know about advertising, and I'm remembering a lecture I heard in college about subliminal messages, and I'm looking at the red and I know that red is power and war and it means passion and desire and love, and it stimulates people it stimulates our metabolism and it makes us want more. I mean, you know, they don't call it the yellow light district, right? They don't call it the green light district, like, let's have a go. It's the red light district. Make a quick decision. That's red. It also indicates eroticism and danger, which could be erotic to some people. Anyway, the Chinese don't think those things about red. They think of red as luck and joy and happiness. And maybe this was my luck, this new job. Or maybe it was something else, I don't know. But in walked Marilyn. And good thing I had already looked at the menu because she knew exactly what she wanted. She ordered mushi pork. I ordered vegetarian fried rice. Meat, Maria, she said. Meat. You have to eat meat. People who don't eat meat are boring. They have no personality. They're gray. Well, gray is one of my favorite colors, I said. And you're a vegetarian. Are you calling me boring? I said to her. You're gray, she said. I like things black or white. It either is or it isn't. People either do or they don't. If it's not black or white, if it's not like that, it's not clear. Well, but doesn't life have gray areas as we get older? Isn't that part of growing older? Finding the gray areas in life? Well, who's older here? Are you older? Yeah, but are you older than me or am I older than you? I think that I might have an older soul, I said to her. Oh, you're going to go there now. Oh, okay, well, if you're going to talk about a past life, maybe you were older than me, but I'm talking about this month, this day, right here and now. If it's not black or white, I don't know which way to move. I'm a mover. I get things done. End of story. I'm finished. And with that, she lit a Parliament 100 cigarette right in the middle of the meal, and she took a long drag. I noticed her red lipstick stained the filter. She's known for having red lipstick on her teeth. The office people told me, always a little bit on her teeth. And so I said, excuse me, you've got a little bit of lipstick on your teeth. I do? Good. I always want to have lipstick on my teeth, she said. And then she told me a story about how her daughters once for her birthday bought her a birthday cake made like a mouth with red lips on it and white teeth, and they put lipstick on the teeth. I was cracking up. Listen, she said, I want you to do me a favor. All right, if I can. I want you to make me a promise. All right, if I can. What is it? If I die before you, and I probably will, I want you to make sure that I have lipstick on my teeth. Go right up to that casket, and you make sure that I've got some lipstick on my teeth. I cracked up. She cracked up, and I thought to myself, God, I really like this woman. Do I make you laugh? You like it? Do I make you laugh? Yes, you do. You do. You make me laugh. The waiter came and cleared the table. He asked if we were having dessert. Are we having dessert, Maria, or is that just too unhealthy for the vegetarian? I said, why don't we split one? He brings the green tea ice cream, and he put 2 fortune cookies down. She grabbed one immediately. You snooze, you lose, she said. You got to be quick. And her eyes twinkled, and she smiled at me. The next day I went to work, and she asked me to type a letter. And I said, I don't know how to type. And so she said, well, sit down and just pretend you do. And that's when I typed the original story that I just told you. I just typed what happened at dinner the night before. Hunt and peck, hunt and peck. And it was at her office that I did actually teach myself how to type. Marilyn is 85 years old right now. I'm 64. She called me last week when I was redoing this story. And she's living in Colorado next to her daughter, and she's living in an assisted home. She called me up to say, you know what, Maria? I'm out here, and I thought I didn't have to put my lipstick on because we're all wearing masks. Are you wearing a mask? I'm wearing a mask, she told me. And she said, but then I realized that if I want to have a hit of cigarette, I still have to take the mask off, and people will see if I don't have my lipstick on. So I still have to put my lipstick on. So I just took my mask off to take a drag of my cigarette, and there's lipstick all over my mask. And I thought about you. It's like, I can't believe you're thinking about me. I'm just rewriting the story. And so maybe memories are kept in the mind or in the heart or in your soul. Or maybe they just have so much energy that when we're thinking about someone, they know it and they think about us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, thanks to all the tellers. Jimmy Corraine, where is Jimmy?
Here.
Janine Burt. Okay. Drew Davis, Megan Gwaltney, Maria Morris, Michael Cobb, Maria Costas. Thank you guys for participating, and thank you to Gorton for putting on stand for virtually. And don't forget, we'll have one May 7th, 7 p.m., Thursday, May 7th, 7 p.m., 5 tellers, 5 to 6 minute stories. We'd like to hear from Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. We know you guys have stories, and we'd love to hear them. So thanks to Ann Wildman, as always. Thanks to Amy Wagliardo of Gorton, and thanks so much for coming, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. If all the tellers could unmute themselves and take a bow, and let's give everybody a big round of applause. Yay. Thank you so much, everybody. I would say this was an awesome success, and hopefully we'll see everybody May 7th. Take care. And
Great
stay
job.
healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
All right, go storytellers. All right,
That
goodbye. Good night.
Good night.